The cabin lights glowed softly as passengers settled into their seats, but in the middle of first class, a trembling 17-year-old black girl sat frozen, gripping the edges of her armrest. A uniformed airport cop loomed over her, one hand resting on his belt, the other gesturing impatiently toward the aisle. "You don't belong here," he muttered loudly enough for half the cabin to hear, his voice dripping with authority and assumption. Passengers turned, whispering, some frowning, others smirking as if entertained by the unfolding scene. The girl's voice cracked as she tried to explain, I have a ticket, this is my seat." But the officer only stepped closer, his shadow swallowing her in fear. She flinched as his hand brushed her arm, and then almost in slow motion, phone lit up with an incoming call from Dad. She stared at the screen, wide-eyed. In a barely audible whisper she said, "Please, don't call my dad." The officer scoffed. "We'll sort this out my way." The screen flickered again, vibrating insistently, and then everything paused. A narrator's voice cut in with a slow, dramatic echo. When the truth came out, the flight never took off. The tension hung in the air like the calm before a storm. Earlier that morning, Maya Johnson had walked through the airport with the quiet confidence of someone raised to be polite, humble, and self-sufficient. She wasn't a typical teenager, no flashy clothes, no loud attitude, no entourage of friends documenting life on social media. Just a soft-spoken young girl, traveling alone for the first time, carrying a neatly packed backpack and a first-class boarding pass tucked carefully inside a book. Her father had gifted her the trip for her 17th birthday, insisting she fly comfortably and safely. She tried to protest she never liked special treatment, but he insisted, telling her she deserved the same comfort anyone else would get. To her, it was just a seat. But to the wrong stranger, that seat meant suspicion. The airport buzzed with holiday energy, crowds rushing in every direction, families reuniting, overhead announcements echoing across the terminal. Maya quietly took her place in the first-class boarding line, earning curious glances she had long learned to ignore. When she boarded, she found her seat too, had placed her backpack under the seat, and sat upright with the poise her father taught her. But the moment the flight attendant approached her with a raised eyebrow and a forced smile, Maya felt that familiar tightening in her chest. "Sweetheart, first class is up here," the woman said slowly, as if speaking to someone who didn't understand English. Maya smiled politely and handed over her ticket. The attendant's expression didn't soften. Instead, her eyes narrowed. From that moment, the small seeds of doubt, misplaced, unfair, quietly cruel, began to grow. A few passengers glanced her way, their faces carrying silent accusations. A businessman 2 rows behind whispered, "Probably someone's kid sneaking up here." Maya kept her posture straight, her eyes calm, even as her heartbeat picked up. She didn't want trouble. She never did. She just wanted to get to her destination, enjoy her birthday trip, and call her father later to tell him how smoothly everything went. But fate, prejudice, and one wrong assumption were about to collide in the most dramatic way imaginable. And Maya had no idea the next few minutes would turn this simple flight into a national headline. Maya slid into seat 2, setting her backpack gently under the seat. She smoothed her jeans, checked her boarding pass one more time, and exhaled. Around her, first-class passengers stowed designer carry-ons and compared loyalty points. She pulled out her book, trying to disappear into the page. A flight attendant, Vanessa, moved down the aisle with a tight smile plastered on her face. When her eyes landed on Maya, the smile flickered. She paused. "Hi there, sweetheart," Vanessa said, voice slightly higher than before. "Are you sure you're in the right seat?" Maya looked up, confused but polite. "Yes, ma'am, seat 2A. She held out the boarding pass. Vanessa scanned it, then scanned Maya again, eyes moving from her worn sneakers to her simple braided hair. Something in her expression said she still didn't buy it. Just, stay seated for now," Vanessa murmured, already turning away. Maya's stomach tightened. She'd felt that look 100 times before. She swallowed, straightened her shoulders, and pretended not to notice the businessman across the aisle staring at her as if she'd wandered into the wrong movie. 10 minutes later, Vanessa returned, this time with a forced professionalism, holding a small tablet. "Miss, can I see your boarding pass one more time?" Maya blinked but nodded, handing it over. The nearby businessman smirked, whispering something to his seatmate. Vanessa checked the screen, then the ticket, then Maya. "Did you get this ticket?" she asked, tone sharpening. "My dad bought it," Maya replied, surprised. For my birthday, Vanessa's eyebrows rose. You thought of bought you a first-class ticket? Alone? The way she said "thought" made Maya's cheeks burn. Yes, ma'am, he wanted me to be safe. A woman behind him chimed in quietly. Maybe someone printed her a fake ticket. Another passenger muttered, kids always trying something. Maya's throat tightened. I scanned my boarding pass at the gate, she said softly. They let me on. Vanessa sighed dramatically. I understand, but this doesn't look right. I'll have to verify it with my supervisor. She turned away without waiting for a response. Maya stared down at her trembling hands. She wasn't doing anything wrong, yet somehow, once again, she was the one on trial for existing in the wrong place. A few minutes later, as more passengers filed in, Vanessa returned with a middle-aged man in a blazer and badge. The cabin. Supervisor Harris. He stood over Maya, arms folded. Miss, I'm Harris, the flight supervisor. We've got an issue with your seat assignment. Maya tried to keep her voice steady. What kind of issue? Harris glanced briefly at the passengers watching. Our system is flagging a discrepancy. You may have been assigned the wrong class of service. Maya frowned, but I boarded normally. The scanner turned green. Harris shrugged. Sometimes, mistakes happen. We need you to move to economy while we sort it out. A murmur rippled through the cabin. Maya felt heat rush to her face. Sir, my ticket is for this seat. I didn't do anything wrong. Harris's expression hardened. He was already done listening. I'm not asking again. Please gather your things. Maya's chest heaved. Can you at least check with the gate, or call my dad? She asked. We don't have time for this, Harris snapped. We're delaying departure, Vanessa whispered. Just go. It'll be easier. Maya stayed glued to her seat, heart pounding. The word refusing left Harris's lips as he reached for the interphone. Fine, I'll call airport security. The cabin fell into uncomfortable silence as a uniformed airport cop stepped on board. His boots thudded softly on the carpet as he strode toward first class. Maya felt her pulse beating in her ears. Harris pointed in her direction. Her. She's refusing to move from a seat that isn't hers. The officer stopped beside Maya, towering over her. Ma'am, I need you to stand up and come with me, he said, voice firm. We've had a complaint. Maya looked up, eyes wide. Officer, I have a valid ticket. I'm not refusing, I'm just in the seat my dad paid for. The cop didn't even look at the ticket yet. You can explain that outside the plane. You're holding everyone up, a passenger whispered. Just get her out of here. Another muttered, always drama. Maya's hand tightened around her phone. Please, can you at least look at my boarding pass, she pleaded. The cop glanced at it briefly and shrugged. Tickets can be fake, stand up. His hand hovered near her arm. She swallowed hard. Her father's words flashed in her mind. If anyone mistreats you, you call me immediately. She unlocked her phone under the tray table, thumb shaking over. The contact labeled Dad. Maya hit the call button, her heart pounding as it rang. The cop frowned. I said stand up, not make a phone call, she whispered. Please, just let me talk to my dad. On the third ring, a calm, deep voice answered. Hey, birthday girl, you've ordered okay. Maya's voice trembled. Dad, they're trying to remove me from first class. They say, the ticket isn't mine. The cop rolled his eyes. Tell whoever that is, we don't. The voice on the phone cut in, firm and controlled. This is Anthony Johnson. Who am I speaking to, and why is someone touching my daughter? The officer hesitated. Passengers leaned closer. Maya put the phone on speaker and held it out. Sir, this is airport security, the cop said reluctantly. We've got a suspected seat issue. Anthony's tone sharpened. My daughter is traveling on Horizon Tech corporate account. Her ticket was purchased directly from your airline's executive desk. She has a confirmed first-class seat. You are detaining a minor without cause. A nearby passenger typed Anthony Johnson, Horizon Tech into their phone, eyes widening as the search results appeared. Whispered reactions spread like wildfire. The cop shifted his stance. Harris and Vanessa exchanged nervous glances. Anthony's voice stayed calm but carried steel. Officer, put a supervisor from the airline on the line. Now, Harris stepped closer, trying to reclaim authority. Sir, we followed procedure. She refused to move, refused to surrender a paid seat. Anthony interrupted. Let me be very clear. I'm on the phone with your airline's regional vice president. I also sit on a partnership board with your carrier. I know exactly how your policies work and how lawsuits do. A hush fell over the cabin. The cop's radio crackled softly at his shoulder. Maya watched in disbelief as the man who minutes ago had barked orders now looked uncomfortable. Anthony continued, "Until this is resolved, I want this aircraft held at the gate. No one moves my daughter without my consent." Within minutes, the captain stepped out of the cockpit, face serious. "We've been asked to delay departure," he announced. Passengers groaned, then quieted when they realized why. The airline's ground manager appeared at the aircraft door, summoned urgently. Harris's earlier confidence dissolved as the manager listened to the call, eyes narrowing at Vanessa's words. She didn't look like a first-class passenger. The sentence hung in the air like a confession. The ground manager cleared his throat. "Miss Johnson, I've reviewed your ticket. You are indeed confirmed in seat 2A. On behalf of the airline, I'm very sorry." Maya sat with her hands clenched in her lap, unsure whether to smile, cry, or both. The passengers who had doubted her suddenly found things to look at. Magazines, the ceiling. Anthony's voice came through the speaker again, quieter but firm. "I want the employees who harassed my daughter removed from this flight and reported." The captain nodded once. "Harris, Vanessa, please step off the aircraft. We'll continue this conversation with management." Vanessa's mouth dropped. "Captain, I was just doing my job." The captain's tone turned icy. "Your job doesn't include profiling passengers or calling security instead of verifying facts." As they gathered their things, the same aisle they once dominated suddenly felt like a tunnel of judgment. A few passengers stared them down. One woman shook her head in disgust. The cops stepped back silently, no longer the center of power. Anthony spoke softly to Maya through the phone. "You okay, baby?" She exhaled, voice cracking. "Yeah, I think so." The manager offered her bottled water and a blanket, treating her now with the care she should have received from the beginning. Hours later, when the delayed flight finally landed, Maya walked through the arrivals area and spotted her father, waiting near the gate with a security escort, suit jacket draped over one arm. For a moment, she was 5 years old again, running to him after kindergarten. She dropped her backpack and hurried into his arms. He hugged her tightly, kissing her forehead. "I'm so proud of you," he murmured. "You stayed calm. You stood your ground." She shook her head. "I was scared the whole time." He smiled gently. "Courage isn't about not being scared. It's about what you do anyway." As they walked toward baggage claim, he explained that the airline's executive team had already apologized and promised full retraining for staff. "They also asked if you'd be willing to speak on a diversity panel," he added. Maya laughed softly. "I just wanted to read my book in peace," he nodded. "And you should have been allowed to." He paused, looking at her seriously. "No one gets to decide where you belong based on how you look, ever." Later, as they drove away from the airport, Maya glanced back at the runway lights fading behind them, knowing that what started as a humiliating moment had become something bigger, a quiet, powerful reminder that sometimes the most important flights are the ones that never leave the ground. As the car pulled away from the airport, the fading runway lights flickered against the windows, and Maya finally allowed herself to breathe deeply, long, steady breaths that began to push away the tension she had been holding for hours. Her father drove in calm silence, the kind meant to soothe, not ignore. Maya watched the city lights pass by, her fingers loosely intertwined in her lap. "Dad," she finally said, voice soft. "I didn't want all that to happen. I didn't want to see him. I just wanted to prove I belonged." "There," her father glanced at her warmly. "You never needed to prove that," he said. "The people who doubted you were the ones who needed to question themselves." She leaned back, letting that truth settle. For so long, she had simply learned to shrink herself in uncomfortable situations. But today, she realized, staying quiet wasn't always the safest option sometimes. Fairness needed a voice. When they reached home, Maya paused outside the door, taking in the familiar warmth of the house. Inside, her older sister had hung a banner that read, "Happy Birthday, Maya," as if the world hadn't tried to shake her hours earlier. She smiled, touched by the normalcy waiting for her. As she set her bags down, her father placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "What happened today," he said, "wasn't just about a seat on a plane. It was about how people choose to see others. Some see skin, some see assumptions, but the right people, the ones who matter, see character." Maya nodded slowly. "I don't want anyone else to feel what I felt today," she whispered. Her father smiled proudly. "Then you're already changing the world more than you realize." That night, as Maya lay in bed, she replayed the entire ordeal in her mind, not with fear this time, but with clarity. She had learned something powerful, that silence doesn't protect you, but truth does. That dignity isn't granted by a seat number or a uniform, but held within you, unshaken, before drifting to sleep. She made a quiet promise to herself, to her younger self, and to anyone who had ever been underestimated. She would keep walking into every room, every opportunity, every first-class seat with her head high, not waiting for permission to belong. And if the world ever questioned her place again, she now knew she had the strength to answer back, with anger, but with confidence, truth, and unshakable grace.